It's been about 3 months since the last big update for ATLYSS came out and another one just dropped. Is it any good? Short answer, yes. If you want the long answer, keep watching as I cover all that was added and changed in the latest update and its 4 subsequent patches. I've split this video up into distinct sections so it's easier to skip around, sorted by how much audience retention I think it'll keep. Now then, let's start off strong with one of the biggest changes, the Reworked Zones. KISSF has gone ahead and tweaked the zones again, condensing areas and making them a combination of both the smooth terrain system and legacy blocky polygons. There's plenty more to see and do, and getting around doesn't feel like a chore anymore. Oh, and no more texture warping. We'll start off with the Sanctum, which has gotten a few new decorative elements, including more foliage and pathways. Over by the dummies, I'll demonstrate their new stunned animation, which is quite violent. Torta has a full 3D model now, able to freely assert his capybara dominance. On the path to Enox is Trip the Dye Merchant, who is also added to the Wall of Stars and can still be found in the Chapel of the Elders. Right next to Trip is the Sanctum's newest resident, Ruka, who handles mining. What's mining? Something I'll cover later. Speaking of topics I'll tease you with, you can get to the new courtyard area through this teleporter pad, and going there contains the Mad Statue NPC. The outer Sanctum area is a great introduction to the newly reworked zones, looking a lot more lively and being much quicker to traverse. There's plenty of trees to climb and rocks to mine, and the mix of the old and new terrain styles work together so well. The Eiffel Terrace is off to the left, a zone that was lightly tweaked to add 2 secret chests. If we were to go dead ahead, it becomes clear the old Outer Sanctum zone was split into 2, the previous area and the Arkwood Pass. The Arkwood Pass contains the Chapel of the Elders, which has a new NPC that explains the process of revival, and a new memorial gravestone. I don't think anyone knows who this is yet. And be careful in the catacombs, someone may be watching you. Continuing on to the Crescent Road, it's gotten a more woodland aesthetic that feels very cozy to linger in. On the left is a cove for fishing, and a new enemy, the Clam Coal. Along the path is a teleporter that brings you to the new Luvora Garden Zone. There's not much in it right now, save for the new Mandragora enemy, who has a pretty cool design. Walking down further to the keep, not much has changed here except for the initial spawning position. It sets you right in the middle of the keep, with the warp to the Gate of the Moon on the right, and some more mining nodes on the left. There is this secret chest down here though, which is sweet. On to the Gate of the Moon, the layout is basically unchanged and it just got an extra added layer of polish. Beware the redwood forest though, there's dangerous sin roots lurking about. Oh, and it's harder but not impossible to glitch out of bounds to the tree area. But nothing has been changed there yet. But what about Tool Valley? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I saved the best for last. The valley has been split into 3 distinct zones, with the main area getting condensed and a new coat of paint. It leads to the Tool Enclave, a claustrophobic zone with dangerous creatures that lurk in the fog. If you're lucky, you might just find the statue of Angela with a secret chest behind her. Further down, there's a teleporter that leads you to the Bular Fortress, a foreboding structure teeming with boars. If you've been playing ATLYSS for a while, you'll remember this being the incomplete open-air dungeon. Well, now, KISSF has finished it up into a tough yet fun experience. Before we head inside, Amagon over here is the new Tool NPC, and he gives some lore about the boars. It turns out all of the boars used to look like this guy before an evil witch came through and mutated them all. Boy, I wonder if we'll be seeing more of her. After accepting Amagon's quest, you're all set to head into the dungeon, but you're going to want to be around level 28 just to be safe, as the enemies are very deadly. Be especially wary of the new War Boar. Their spin attack has a wide range that's very hard to get away from. The dungeon layout is the same as the unfinished version, except for the very end, where you'll face off against the highest level boss in the game so far. Unless you're in a party, this guy's probably gonna waffle stomp you. And if you don't have a tier, then you're gonna get sent all the way back to the start. The loot he drops is quite worth the grind though, something I'll cover soon. That's enough about the reworked zones, on to one of my most favorite additions of this update, Professions. Before the update, Professions were more of a proof of concept. You could only go fishing, and at most it was good for getting soul pearls and the Angela's tears. Professions have been given a lot more depth now, with the addition of mining and the ability to level up your profession. By leveling up, it gives you access to higher tier nodes that were previously locked, and better loot tables, making it well worth your time. Let's start with mining, the new profession. You have to acquire a pickaxe from either Sally or Ruka, and you can use it on various deposits scattered around the world of ATLYSS. At level 0, you only have access to hefty stones, one of the 4 current node types. There's no minigame tied to mining, so you just have to sit there, which can be pretty boring, unless you're an iPad baby like me and you have something going on the second monitor. Each ore has a specific drop table, and the loot can be brought back to Ruka in exchange for ingots, which can then be traded for new armor and weapon sets. If you're trying to level up, then you'll want to focus on nodes around your own level, as XP does fall off with lower tier nodes. This applies for fishing as well, which there's also been some changes to. You'll need to rebuy your fishing rod from Torta again, but it's a good opportunity to see the new fishing hat added to his store. There's currently 3 different spots you can fish at right now: the Sanctum Lake, the Arkwood Pond, and the Crescent Cove. Each place has its own loot table with different rates, with the Cove being the best for finding the big one. There's 2 other fishing exclusive items you can grab, but they're nothing too crazy. But at least you can't get nothing anymore. There are plenty of small but positive additions to the UI, including new icons in the main menu, character creator, and death screen. We've got new class icons too, and an icon for if a particular piece of armor is affected by dyes. This minimap art in the top left, party icons are now color-coded, the world map has new art, and a block of tutorial text will pop up when hitting certain triggers. I've heard complaints that it's pretty in the way, but there's no better way to get your players to read something they'll otherwise ignore than by making it center stage. With so many changes to ATLYSS, there are many that didn't fall into a specific category, which is what this one's for. If you kill enough mobs in a specific area for long enough, you may get lucky and encounter a rare elite enemy, indicated by a pop-up. There are currently 6 in the game right now. Biggin, who spawns in the Outer Sanctum during the day and drops the Slimewoven Cape, Nograd, who spawns in the same area but at night and drops Nograd's Amulet, Dolkin, who spawns in the Crescent Road and drops Dolkin's Axe, Rakamek, who spawns in the Tool Valley and drops the Slabton Shield, Gahul, who spawns in the Tool Enclave and drops either a Wizard Hat, Flux Cape, or Focus Eyeglasses, and Cruel, who has no special drops for now. Here's hoping we may see some Golem-based elites, as I can only imagine what those designs would look like. When it comes to trade items, there's been plenty more added, and thankfully most items stack up to 99 now, so you can fit more of them in your storage. Items tied to specific quests, like the Golden Carrot, can no longer be dropped or put in storage and just get deleted, which is unfortunate because I had a few of those lying around. Oh, and Sally sells Tomes of Unlearning and Naivety at her lowest shop tier now. Acquiring a subclass is now a bit of a different process. You need 3 Windcore badges you get from the Hardgrove to buy an experience bond from Kotu. With this bond, you take it to the Mad Statue in the Sanctum's courtyard and exchange it for the subclass tome of your choosing. Kisef added some more animations and polished other ones, like all races now having unique casting animations. Vivian has a new looping animation while enchanting an item, but I do feel like the background sound effect is a little annoying. Burst guns have a new shooting animation, and imps have a new sitting animation, but you can always use the old one with the sit2 command. There were other various changes and adjustments to other animations, good stuff all around. The Orcakin, or Orca Bunnies, whatever they're called, all have new dialogue that feels less like placeholder text and more like what real people would say. Sally, Enoch, and Angela have more quests now, signs can be interacted with again, and the teleporter graphics were slightly tweaked. Reviving someone can now be done without a soul pearl, but there's a long animation required that you certainly don't want to be doing mid-combat. If you found that swapping your skill bar also swapping your weapons to be annoying, don't fret. There's now an option to lock your weapon so it stays put while you're swapping between skill bars. The ring slot has been renamed to the trinket slot, allowing for more than just ring items to be made for the game. The skill bar can display the exact cooldown of a skill by turning on a setting, and controller support was worked on some more. Upon startup, the game remembers the last used save file and the default volume was lowered as to not blow out your eardrums if your settings got reset, which I've had that happen before. The background in the character select screen and character creator has been changed back to how it was before. The character creator was updated to now ask for your confirmation when hitting the randomize button, and more names were added to the random name table. I ended up getting Walter and Wawa. Kisef also added some ATLYSS profile pictures for Steam, as well as integrating Steam Rich Presents so it more accurately displays your activity in-game to your friends. We could be getting trading cards? That would be nice. The latest update has brought us several dozen new pieces of armor and weapons to try out. Instead of monologuing for minutes on end about what's on your screen, I'll put on some music and keep the commentary light for this section. You can skip to the next section where I talk about balancing if you'd like, but I implore you to watch the full video. You don't want to miss what could be in store for the future of the game. I think that's about everything. I tried my best to get all of the new items, but the wiki is barely updated, so I might have missed one or two things. You know what I won't miss though are these balance changes. We'll start off strong and hit you with one of the biggest changes this update. The max level has been reduced from 40 to 32. This was done because there's no sort of endgame content to justify having the max level be so high, since Kisef has remained firm on his decision that 40 will be ATLYSS's upper limit. Now I do see how this could be seen as a slap to the face if you put in the hours to grind to level 40, only to get that progress removed with no compensation. And to that I don't really have any answers, you have to take that up to the forums. The max health curve was adjusted, as well as the XP curve from level 20 to 32, making the grind a little less annoying. When playing with a party, enemies' max health scaling has been reduced from 48 to 36%, iframes during PvE combat have been reduced by 50%, and parrying has been buffed by 1 second. Enemies lower than level 5 no longer scale with player count, and low-level enemies won't linger around the player anymore, I think. The cast time decrease on hit was removed, but the animation can still be stopped if you're knocked back. Critical hits should be punchier with low-level weapons now, a great change for new characters. You will want to be careful while dungeoning though, as traps now instantly shatter your shield and drain your stamina, and aggroed enemies will gravitate towards the player more. What else? The Slime Diva has had some stat adjustments. Kisef fixed a lingering hitbox issue with the boom bores, so they should be less aggravating to fight against, and all close-ranged and melee skills have extra coyote time now. One of the biggest adjustments is to PvP, where attacks between players are now reduced to 68% of their original damage. This was done to make fights feel more balanced, and while I'm not much of a PvPer myself, I have to admit I have mixed feelings about this one. Now then, on to skills. I've skipped a lot of the smaller balance changes to focus on just the big ones. Sorry, there's just so many. Recovery got a duration buff with 3 extra seconds. Alacrity got an insane buff, going from a 28-second cooldown all the way down to just 13 seconds. And Spire got an insane buff, as well as going from a 20-second cooldown to only 8. Spreadshot's cooldown was buffed, then nerfed as it was too good, and now it sits in a pretty good spot. Recall now costs nothing to cast, whereas before it used to be 1 mana, and Curus got a nerf. When it comes to the fighters, reflected damage is now displayed, Cyclone got some adjustments, Stomp was buffed, and Rage's duration was lowered to 32 seconds. With Mystics, the big 3 skills, Flux Bolt, Flux Spear, and Restora had a few adjustments, and Bandit's Venom Shot and Bomb Trap are buffed. Bomb Trap can't be reflected in PvP anymore, thank goodness. On to the subclasses, Paladin has a new passive skill that makes the class more mind-focused, and Divine can no longer crit. Wait, it could do that before? Magus had some buffs to Haste and Ruin, and Bishop's got a buff to Shadow Ward. Teleporting between portals within the same zone is now instant and doesn't unload and load the same area again, fixing an infinite loading screen bug. This is best demonstrated between the Crescent Keep and the Grove portal. Fog now smoothly transitions, various instances of player model clipping were fixed, and the burst guns now have their damage properly applied, although this could also be seen as a nerf. I'm great at complaining, and I have a few little nitpicks I'd like to bring up here. First off, there's still a bit of weird stuff going on with the vertexes on the smooth terrain, but those issues are few and far between. I once saw a golem get stuck on being scaled up on the Z-axis, which was pretty funny. You can still swim out of bounds in the Sanctum, and when dying while on a mining node, the progression pop-up spazzes out. This one is more of a nitpick of Kisef specifically, but communications around updates for ATLYSS have certainly been lacking. The last message in his Snapshots channel is from nearly 5 months ago, and there's been nothing since then save for a few blurbs in the Steam forums. I get it though, he's in a bit of a catch-22. If Kisef does give a bunch of info about upcoming features while they're in production, it's possible they could change later down the line and get people's hopes up for nothing. But if he remains silent, it makes people question where the game is going and what's being worked on right now. Unless you're in his Patreon server, where progress updates are shared more frequently. I'm not keen on debating the fairness of that, but just a little more for the wider community would go a long way. What's the plan with ATLYSS going forward, and what can we expect? Well, a lot of good things, that's for sure. Skrit's gambling is going to thankfully be overhauled, Sally's going to get more gear in her shop, and Torta will have quests for the player. The storage system is getting revised, and here's hoping we get more slots too. The Gate of the Moon will be completed, including its minimap, and I assume that also applies to the Redwood Zone and Tree area. The Catacombs will get more configurations, elite enemies will get dedicated drops, and additional music and ambience will be added to zones that don't already have them. Kisef has confirmed full gamepad support will come out in the next update, so you no longer have to do tacky workarounds. And you may be really excited for this one, Weapon Vanity. It would work the same way cosmetic vanity does, being able to visually wield a different weapon than the one you're actually using. For instance, if I wanted to go for a Catacombs theme, I wouldn't have to use a weapon that doesn't match the set, just so I'm not outmatched during combat. So, I ended up working on this video for so long that another update just dropped. I don't have a good audio setup or any script, so I'm just winging it right now. The big thing with this update is gamepad support, which is really nice for controller players, and should open the door for Steam Deck support. There's been some nice additions too, like more dungeon patterns for the Catacombs and Grove. 7 storage slots, which is awesome. Parties can now hold up to 6 people, and you're able to change who the party leader is. There's been some balance changes to the guitars and fists, increasing the attack rate. Some general quality of life fixes. This one is pretty controversial though. He updated the font for the chat box, making it more simplistic, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't really like this change. The new font feels very corporate and cold, but the old one, sure, yeah, it was stylized and it overlapped characters sometimes, but it just felt more in tune with the art style. If we had an option to switch between the two, I would love that. But right now, I almost don't even want to play multiplayer because of this. Zone chat is back though, which is honestly a nice change. Oh, and there's a change to the chat box text where the stuff won't fade in and out when the UI is hidden. Looks like the Slime Diva was adjusted a bit. And for the multiplayer server listings, you now have to manually refresh when picking a category. Before, you could just click the button and it would just refresh for you. I'm not sure why this has changed because it was really handy, but whatever. The max health to all the mobs were increased. There's been a ton of adjustments to skills. For instance, melee skills now provide 0.2 seconds of iframes on cast. I don't know how I feel about that one. This is pretty huge though. Any sort of like strength, mind, or dexterity mastery has been bumped up to a 40% damage bonus, which is pretty sizable. Some decreased cooldowns across the board. Fighters got a ton of new adjustments this update, the biggest one being to Lethal Strike. It used to be a skill, but now it's been moved to a passive ability. You have to hold E to use it, but the default dash button is E, so you basically have to dash to use this, which feels very clunky. Execute now has lifesteal. Life tap got some adjustments. Bulwark now provides a 45% chance to ignore stamina cost when successfully blocking an attack. Some of the other skills were adjusted. Cyclone is crazy now, let me tell you. Unfortunately, Mystics and Bishops didn't get much, and Bandits, I am sorry for you guys, another update with barely anything. All in all, I give this update a 6 out of 10. I like most of the changes, especially with the storage containers and new dungeon stuff. I feel like stuff like skills shouldn't be tweaked as much as they are. I think that time could be better spent working on dungeons and other zones. And I really don't like the change to the chat box or Lethal Strike. I can live with the Lethal Strike change, but please, I just love a setting to toggle back to the old font. All in all, not bad, and I'm excited to see what else could be in store. This one was a doozy to make. Thanks for sticking around this long. If you haven't subscribed yet, I implore you to do so. I just hit 1K since the last video, and I want to hit 2K by the end of this year. If you're wondering why I'm your host today and not the purple guy over there, it's because I'd rather you associate this silky smooth voice with me, and not him. I'd like to give a big shout out to those who helped me show off all of the new armor and weapons. This is the part where I pay you all an exposure. And that's about all. I think I'm going to take another nap for a few months.